Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Cold.
Yeah, you said that. So I'm just pulling up our comments here. We are streaming live on my YouTube, Rick's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter X, and also Instagram on my Miranda Von Scuttlebutt channel. So welcome everyone this morning to Vibe with the Tribe. Just to remind you what we're doing over here is this is our Monday morning kickoff. It's about lunchtime in Britain, where my good friend Rick is coming in from, and it is bright and early in the morning. So Rick, what's our goal here for our Monday morning show, just for any of our new visitors? I do see Grumpy Sapper in here. Yay, Grumpy Sapper. So what is our goal here? What are we trying to do here?
Upliftment, and for me, nourishing the soul. I heard a saying a long while ago, and it was one that I had to look into because I just like the vibration around the thing. For me, it's like chicken soup for the soul. What we're looking to do here for people. None of particularly what I say is meant as an instruction. It's an observation of life. I'm an observationalist. I mean, we've sat here and we've tried to put a structure together of what we'd like to achieve, but essentially we kind of rely on you guys' energy when you're coming in. And I think it's both Anna and I's experiences of life, of how we've looked at things and what we've dealt with. We have a discussion, and then we put out there where we feel that we would like to provide support for you guys that are coming in. And it's just how we've experienced it. It's not a framework that says, go out there and you must do this and you will get guaranteed results, because I personally don't think anybody has that right. You know, it's.
Could you imagine if we wielded that power?
Oh my word! Oh my word! Mind you, I'd be about 30 stone as well, because I'd be the king of the cakes and pies. That would be where my focus would go out the window, because I would be just taking over all pie shops and all cake places.
Right. Yeah, I am never one to say no to cake, but I did say no to cake this weekend. I ate really, really well all week. Like, I ate really, I started, I joined it's a place called Evolution Boot Camp here, and it's like a really intense workout with my sister-in-law. So I went to one last week, and I was like, all right, so if I'm gonna be working out like I'm in my 20s, I'm gonna be serious about my food. I'm not gonna screw up my workout with bad eating. So somewhere in England, Paul just went, oh, what? The fitness hutch. He just went, oh my God, what did she say? But so today we have an interesting topic for today. So do you want to introduce our topic?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit off camera that if you've lost somebody to the spirit world that's passed away, there's so many services out there that you can be directed to, you know, grieving counselors, practitioners that will help you with your mindset and things like that. And they're widely available. But something that came to me is, when something goes out of your life, and it's not a person dying, we can talk about many different things. We're talking about relationships, a long-term job, a career, or aspirations that you've had that have suddenly come to an end. And it might be something that you've been working on really, really hard. You put a lot of your life's hours into, and then all of a sudden you haven't got to put your energy into it because it's gone for whatever reason, you know, redundancy, people just going away out of your life and moving in different directions. So what I said to Anna was that I believe that there's not enough done on what I call live grieving. So coming to the end of something and what happens in the space between the ending and the new beginning. So we just thought that'd be an interesting topic to talk about, and how in our lives that we've handled certain situations, and how we now, with a little bit of knowledge between, I mean, this is a scary bit, Anna, that we've got over 100 years of life experience between us. How scary is that? But over the 100 years of life experience, we've both definitely picked up some good tips there that can help people manage their daily life. So we were just talking about mind management and what we thought about it. Again, not an instruction. It's just providing you a framework and the support that hopefully you can go out there and just give these a few thoughts and see if that works for you as well.
Yeah, I actually got a copy of The Secret from my favorite outlet, Thrift Books, which is just my new favorite habit. It's basically an online used bookstore, and so I got a copy of The Secret, which Jennifer Aniston famously has read this. A lot of celebrities, and it's an interesting book. I'm kind of skipping to the end of the chapters to kind of build the scaffolding for myself. But there's this really is energetic manifestation is what they're talking about in this book. But sometimes you don't manifest what you want. Sometimes, it kind of falls flat. So, that was where I was thinking, of like spiritual disappointment. And Rick has this amazing term of live grieving for those situations. So, like, perhaps you're trying to manifest a sustained relationship with somebody that you're dating, or and that doesn't go the way you want. There's a reason why it doesn't go the way you want. Universe wants you to go in a different direction. There's a lesson that you're supposed to learn elsewhere. But as humans, as imperfect terrestrial beings, we can get hung up on that kind of stuff. And so when Rick and I were talking about the loss of a job or the loss of a friendship, that can be just as impactful on someone's day-to-day life as losing a person to the spirit world. So, it's something that I think needs to be addressed, and we need to give you guys some kind of process or scaffolding that you can lean into and maybe recreate or modify as needed for yourself. So, that being said, Rick, what kind of live grieving do you hear of most in your work?
It's when something's gone, and like I say, most of my work is about, I do tarot, I do mediumship, and I do life coaching and things like that. But most of the people that come to me, until you actually point that out to them, are unaware that they're doing it. They're all keen. If they're coming for the mediumship side of things, they're all aware that they want a particular person to come through, which I would never guarantee anyway. But they've got this idea that somebody will come through from the spirit world and, I don't know, connect with them and tell them what to do and inspire them or guide them or provide a few crumbs of comfort. But then when you say, right, okay, if they come in, I'll pass on that message. But what is going on in your own life? Why do I sense sadness around you? Because this is the thing. When you're an energy worker, like we both are, people present with certain energies. Now, it's up to the client to sort of say to their reader or the person that they're working with, what's going on? Because we'll pick it up, we'll sense it without any shadow of a doubt. When your cards come out for you, whether it's me having a mediumship session or a counseling session with you, you will come out with some sort of energy because it comes in before you. And people aren't always aware that that's a problem until you highlight it. Now, you can't do counseling, guidance work with anybody unless the problem is switched on. It's like trying to go into a darker room and make a difference to it without putting any lights on. So I would say that a lot of the time when I bring it up, it's a little bit of a shock to them because they're not expecting that. If they come for a reading, that they want to connect in with a particular spirit person. But then we go, right, we'll take aside all of that and ask you what is going on in your life. And it's encouraging people at times to be selfish, right? And people don't always understand this concept because what I'm saying to them is take time out for you. Put aside all of the labels of all of the things that you've got to do, whether it be male or female, whether you're wife, husband, brother, sister. Take away all of those labels. And it was done to me recently. And I found it quite scary because they sat with me and they said, who are you? I said, I'm Rick Paul. And who is Rick Paul? I went, well, I'm a dad. I'm a dad of three lovely kids. I'm a husband of 28 years. I'm a brother. I'm a son. No, let's take away all of that. Right. And I was struggling for reference. I said, well, I'm a psychic medium. I'm a life coach. No, take away all of that. Who are you? And you know what? For once in my life, I didn't have an answer. I didn't have an answer. And they were going, well, this is why you're exhausted. Because if you don't know who you are, how can you ask for help? You might be just stumbling on blindly. So my ideas with this live grieving thing is to put out there that there are people out there that understand. But the clients, be honest with you, very rarely do until you point it out.
Yeah, that's sometimes I have clients come to me and they say, I don't know what I need to know, like just do a general reading. And that's when I do that bucket reading, and I line up like a bunch of buckets. I'm like, what kind of stuff do you have going on? Like, do you work? Do you have a robust social life? I don't want to say healthy social life, but a robust social life. Do you have kids? Do you have family? Do you have a vocation? Do you have a hobby? And then I do, towers of cards with all these different buckets, and we figure out which one's screaming at us the most. So, a lot of the time, you have to peel away those layers, and you kind of have to say to somebody, this seems like you need to focus on it. And they go, yeah, I really didn't want to do that work. I just didn't. So, we want to try and give any of you that are experiencing this little bite-sized bits that you can start to make little tweaks in your life. There's the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson, which I love. And he says, aim small, miss small. And the changes that we need to do in our life. Oh, Fitness Hutch is here. Hi. We were just talking about you. I'm so glad he's here. I'm so glad Paul's here, because it's the little changes that you have to make every day. That's your habit stacking. When you start to not put sugar in your coffee, switch out from energy drinks to herbal tea. You do that little switch just to start to set the pace. And then it's practice that goes into it. I always tell my students for tarot that tarot is a practice like yoga. It's something that you have to keep doing. I'm still learning 35 years later. I'm still learning, even though I am a teacher. So, I just got a new book on the Thoth Tarot. So coming soon, I'll have a class on the Thoth Tarot, a little mini class for everybody that's interested in that. But you have to do these little tweaks. Now, when you're grieving, even if it's grieving someone that has passed on, or grieving someone who has just kind of left the orbit of your life, you really need to do it in little steps, because sometimes we're overwhelmed by that grief. It's a tsunami of grief that hits us. So, we need to do little steps to kind of get out of there. So we kind of came up with a little workflow here, if you will. We have end of relationship, and then there's restoration at the end, where you kind of recover and heal from it. But right in the middle, we've got something called the gap. So, Rick, what do you find? The gap is really a pothole. It's a spiritual pothole that everyone gets stuck in. It can flatten your tire. It can leave you right in the middle of the road. But what do you see in the gap that is the most sticky and inhibiting factor for people that you work with?
The simple answer to that is to pick up a mirror and look at the person that's staring you back, because that is the biggest stumbling point. My recent, and this is why I'm doing my best to be honest with people. My recent, my dad passed away last September, and there's all structures in place for that. But it wasn't my dad's passing that's triggered what's gone on, what's going on now about the grieving cycle. It's what's come after it all. Because for me, grieving for people that have gone to the spirit world is a private journey, and I wouldn't want to share that one way or the other. But the grieving for the gap that is there, the mind wants to be active, or my mind certainly does at all times. It's very, very difficult to switch it off, and I've gone down so many deep rabbit holes now trying to explain this, that all I give is my account of it. So my mind is active from the second that I wake up to the second that I go to sleep. I'm looking at neurodivergence, ADHD, all of that sort of thing, about how I'm processing so many thoughts at once. But you come to the end of something and say that you've applied your sort of 23 hours of your day towards this project, whatever it is, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a career move, a business thing, and it doesn't quite work out. So then it's like you're handed back that 23 hours and said, there you go, do something with it. And you go, well, I've done that for so long. I don't know what I want to do with that. So the mind then goes, right, let's have some fun. And then it'll take you down some rabbit holes yourself. You know, you'll start doing what I call post-morteming. Did I do it in the right way? Did I say the right thing? Have I got something to feel guilty about? Oh, knowing my luck. Well, you know what my previous track record's like in relationships, and I'm not a good business person. And my mum and dad have always brought me up to think this, and religion's taught me this. And then your mind just gets filled up. In the end, it becomes fog and candy floss, because you can't see the new beginning. And effectively, you've not really dealt with the ending of whatever it is that's put you in that place in the first place. So what I look at doing with people is just going, right, instead of, if you think about a sentence structure, if I put a comma on a sentence, that can keep that journey going all over the place. It's like a weaving snake. If I keep putting a comma on it, and then, and then, and then, and then. But if I go full stop, right, and take a pause, full stop, then I've got to start a new sentence. Right? I've got no alternative but to start a new sentence. So what I look at doing with clients is listening to the story, asking them where they want this story to go, and then start structuring. So once we accept the ending, we can usher in the new beginning. So what I talk about, my key word when I'm doing this work, is acceptance of the ending. It's not liking it. It's not agreeing with it. It's not even understanding it at times, but it's accepting the fact that that's the finality. Because then you can start bossing your mind of just going, right, I don't like that particular, the fact that somebody's walked out on me, or I've lost a friendship, but it's happened. And that's in my reality. So at some point, I've got to get past that to allow myself the freedom and the structure to put in place to allow that new beginning to come in place. Because while we're doing what I call post-morteming, which is like, it's basically raking over hot coals, because what you're doing is you're going over old ground and then rehashing the emotions and then putting them into your new situations and basically burning yourself. You know, it's painful to keep looking back over what we didn't succeed in, because I truthfully believe this, Anna, I truthfully believe this, that we don't fail at anything in life, that we either succeed or we learn. And the key for me, the key for my learning journey is learning the lesson quick enough so that I don't suffer pain. I don't want to go over the same thing 2 or 3 times. So going back over something and doing a post-mortem over something that's ended and looking for, I don't know, confirmation in my mind that I handled it in the right way, it really doesn't matter, because it's come to an end. And that is the key point. It's no good going back over it, looking for a peace of mind from it. If it's gone, it's gone. And I think that that's what blocks a lot of people, that they want an answer that isn't readily available. So I look at chopping that off. It's chopping the head off the snake.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I think in that post-mortem phase, I think a lot of people that, like, I know my friends, my clients get stuck in that post-mortem phase where they do say, well, maybe I should have done this differently. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe it wasn't my fault. You know, they may be gaslighting themselves. They may be gaslighting people around them. But you had said something interesting when we were leading up, is that imagination can take over. And absolutely right. So, you know, sometimes when it's a friendship situation. So I had a friend, a lifelong friend that I had a falling out with some time ago. We have since made up, but I had a falling out with her, and it was a stupid disagreement, and we didn't speak for 5 years. And during that 5 years, of course we did like those, I was blocked on this or blocked on that. At one point the blocks came up, and I saw a few posts that other people were tagged in, and I was like, oh, is that me? Like, is she insulting me? And then some of them I was like, oh, maybe this is somebody who wants me back. And they're like, maybe that part of post-morteming, where you start reading into the things that people are posting or saying, or how they're behaving, can be really, really dangerous, because that's when your imagination will take over and it takes you into a different direction. I did not think that there was going to be a restoration to that friendship. Unfortunately, my friend had gotten a pretty awful diagnosis, and we reconnected on the basis of that. And she'd also lost somebody that was very close to her and said life is short. We should kind of smooth over that pothole, if you will. And we did. But I think that imagination process, especially when there's no communication with that other person, can get really hairy. We see this with people that are dating and get ghosted. Also, if you don't get a promotion, I was up for a promotion at one point at my former job, and I was offered a facsimile of a promotion, and I turned it down because it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't what I was looking for. My imagination took over at one point, and I was gaslighting myself. I was like, maybe I was a jerk. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have, conducted myself a little bit differently. But the reality was that I was right at the end of it all. And I had to mourn the end of that relationship with my former employer. I loved my job, and I was amazing at it. So I have no problem saying that. But sometimes you have to mourn that, and the friends, and when it's a job, it's even worse, because you have those coworkers that you're real tight with and consider them family. You're with them 8 hours a day minimum. So it's like a multi-layered kind of mourning process. So one of the things that we find, Rick and I, that we found in order to get to that restoration period. So again, I'm going to draw this out for you. We have the end of the relationship. We have the gap where things can go hairy and you can get into this crazy imagination, and rethinking and rehashing your behaviors, Monday morning quarterbacking it, if you will. And then we have that restoration, the recreation of your whole self, and the reestablishment of what you're going to manifest in the future, and setting those new expectations. It's valuable to know that when you're in that gap, that you should not adhere to your former expectations. So say it's someone that you're dating. Say you meet someone on a dating app, you get into the relationship, and it turns out that it's just booty call. It's just the other party does not have the same goals. Your goals are not in alignment for a sustained, healthy, mature, committed relationship. One party is just kind of hanging out, and the other party is a bit more invested. So you have to change the expectation. So does the relationship need to go out the window? Not necessarily, but if you can't change that expectation of the end goal, yes, the relationship should be concluded. because you're just going to keep setting yourself up for disappointment. So how do you, Rick, help your clients adjust that expectation? Because it really is in the gap, like we're doing a two-step process. We're saying, okay, we're done with this particular lesson, this particular relationship, and now I have to modify my expectations. So it's almost like we have to kind of pull the plug out of one outlet and stick it in the other outlet across the room, right?
I agree. I mean, I know probably Hutch has just disappeared, but myself and Hutch worked in the prison service. I think we've got about 20 years experience between us in prisons. Worked in different departments, but essentially the process is the same when you're dealing with people, especially in that sort of environment, that need to move from one place to another. So say I'm given the instruction by my bosses that I've got to move that person from one place to the other, and that person then is in a place of disagreement, they're in a place of anger, they've got all sorts of concerns, they throw up all sorts of obstacles. So what I call this process is structuring some people's expectations, structuring their expectations. So we go in and we go into dialogue. So this can work for your own inner being as well, because there's parts of you in your inner being that we don't share with everybody else. So you might be super sensitive. You might be a strong person when you're under pressure. But they're all small parts of your psyche that all need to be in agreement so that you can progress onwards. So using the scenario of dealing with a prisoner, you go in there and they will have a story. They will have a reason why they don't want to move out of that process. You know, they love them, whatever it is, there'll be a storyline. So the storyline must be listened to, because the person that's bringing that across is raising that as an issue. That's when the manager steps in and says, right, I've heard your story. Now listen to me, and listen to me carefully on this one, that move has to be made, right? But the gap between here, where we are now, and that bit where we've got to end up is actually fluid at the moment. But we've still got to end up at that point, because this bit is now done. Hopefully we can do it where it's done peacefully. We can negotiate with one another. And I used to use my sense of humor basically because I didn't want to roll around on the floor with anybody, because I don't like confrontation, but quite equally, I hated paperwork. So that was my motivation. Now that I would always say to the person, right, we've got to end up there, and nobody's going to win this if we end up fighting. But you will end up there, whether it's voluntarily or forced. So it's kind of like that when I go into the psyche of just going, right, I know that I need to get from this place to that place. But the good thing about that is it's voluntarily. So I can do it in the most pain-free way possible. But I've got to negotiate as I go along the way, because the things that you've lost and that have gone, they're still realistic to you because they're in your reality, or your brain wouldn't be raising the fact that I'm in pain. Right. But the ongoing thing is that we've got to get to that new beginning. And this is why I always come out with "and then what?" Because it's once we accept the storyline is completed, and then what? So what do we fill that gap in with? So my thing is a mixture of counselling, it's a mixture of listening, it's a mixture, and one of my biggest hobbies with people is listening to their dialogue, listening to their language patterns, building a sort of a camaraderie with them, so that you're on the level of understanding of what they're viewing it through and what filter they're using, and say, where do you want to end up? You can put a timeline in for them. Where do you actually want to end up? Is it in your reality, like say with a relationship there, that there's a realistic possibility that you could get that person back? And this is where you've got to be careful, because people might want to go back, but then you ask them, what level of vibration are you working at? Because we spoke about energy off camera. So if you've got somebody, let me say you get quite addicted to them because they're quite strong-minded, they're a good organizer. Now, if you're going to work on a long-term relationship, you're basically like this. You're like a metronome that's going like this. And it's not always going to be perfect. right? But you will knock one another's corners off, and you will flow at that vibration. So as you move forward, you will move forward as a partnership. If, however, you've got somebody there that's quite strong and dynamic, and you're one of these that don't want to speak your mind, you're a little bit, you've had previous experience where you've been abused or something like that, you're going to go in at a lower vibration. The day that you change your mind and you say, right, I've had enough of this crap, I'm now going to move at my own speed and go in my own direction, you're going to meet like a ceiling. Because that person's going to be content about being there because you're there. Once you go there, there's a whole lot of other things that are going to go, why are you doing that? Why? So it's, again, it's this process of negotiation. It's how you see yourself. What is your vibe like? We talked about this with Vibe with the Tribe. What is your vibration like? On your best day, I've no doubt that all of these people on there that are commenting, on your best day, you're world beaters. But on the day when you sort of view yourself lower down on other people, you can be your own worst nightmare. And I know this to be true because I am one of the biggest exponents of it. On my day, there's no one better to be with when you've got problem solving to do. But if I'm in the grump, or I'm not seeing things and I'm stuck in my past, or there's been sort of a trigger or a trauma that's happened that's reminded me of something, I'm a nightmare. So it's actually what we talked about is that need to have a rest sometimes in that gap. And I liken it to Dorothy out of The Wizard of Oz when she stood in that cyclone with all of the bits of crap flying at her. So I look at it as like, we'll provide you with an umbrella while you make a decision. But the end result of that consideration is, where's my positivity coming from? So dealing with those bits of crap, having the rest time that you need, but not leading into too much procrastination, making a decision that you actually want to come out of that phase. Because that's another thing, that somebody puts their faith in somebody like us providing you with an answer. Well, realistically, we can't. We can give you indications of how it might turn out if you take certain steps, what the energy and what the vibration is telling you around you, but nobody can make your mind up for you. And this is where I spend a lot of time with clients going, right, what do you want? And then I can help you structure. So the idea behind all of my work is there's plenty enough light workers out there. There's plenty enough people that will give you all of the mantras, all of the guidance that you want to come out into the light. But there's also got to be the ones that will stand and hold the torch for you while you make the discoveries in the dark. So,
and that's wild, because I pulled one of Kyle Gray's vibration cards, and this is what I pulled. Let your inner fire warm you, but not burn you. This is changing your manifestations, making that fire work for you and not getting caught up in it. So I think that that's super cool. I think that that's neat. So, we were talking, I don't want to talk about it too much, but, we were talking before we got on about, what tarot cards would lean into this idea of, moving through that postmortem phase productively and getting into a better mindset. And like some of the cards that came up, like Rick said, what about the Judgment card? Because the Judgment card is really about the imagery on the Rider-Waite card is the Ascension. My poor Sunday schooling is showing right now. It's the he blows the horn, and what is it called? Oh my God, help me out.
Is it resurrection?
The
Rejuvenation?
Yes, yeah, it's Judgment Day. It's Judgment Day when the dead will rise, the seas will boil. And it's about restoration of yourself, restoration and connection with spirit. I also found that the Temperance card, because now we're really understanding our limitations. We're getting a handle on the limitations. Death card, of course, is radical change, unstoppable change. Either you change it now or you're going to change it later. So, interestingly, I found the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. And I think the Knight of Pentacles in reverse is curious as someone who is evolving and restoring oneself. So the Knight of Pentacles is setting up foundations when he's in the upright. When he's in the reverse, we're raising the building, R-A-Z-I-N-G, raising the building and reestablishing. So, and my students always ask me, cards in reverse, are they always bad? No, they're not always bad. In this case, in a given reading, that Knight of Pentacles in reverse is not a bad guy. He's a guy who's going to go in there and route change and make things a little bit different. So our call to action, and I apologize, guys, because I have a hard stop at 9:15. So our call to action that we came up with is managing your thoughts. So thoughts are things, and any of us that are following the Fitness Hutch, you guys know, Rick and I both are good friends with Paul and Mel. Where you put your attention, energy grows. So if you're sitting there wringing your hands and ruminating about a failed relationship, a lost job opportunity, a lost promotion, maybe you were trying to get a dog or a house or something like that, and you lose it to another party, you have to manage the thoughts on that. You can't sit there and ruminate and wring your hands. You can't focus on the loss. You have to focus on the opportunity for something better to come in. So we need to manage the thoughts, change our affirmations, heed warnings. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Rick? How one can heed warnings?
Yeah, I say heed warnings and then put my little asterisk in the middle and starting noticing your synchronicities. This is just my belief system, by the way. This is just I'm an over analyst. I'm an overthinker. My mind goes in some strange directions at times, but I believe that we have the opportunity to look at things, and I see it in threes. The first time will be a gentle nudge, and you just go, you might let it float past you. So say you've heard something about somebody in a relationship and you go, oh, well, that's not my reflection. Somebody else says it and you just, yeah, well, it's not the way that I see it. And you just float on past, and it doesn't derail you or anything like that. It's just stopped you thinking for a moment. The second time, the energy starts to get stronger. So somebody will confront you with something. And this is what happens with a lot of the clients that I deal with. And I ask them about relationships, or say to clients, what is it that you're looking for clarity on? And they'll, in the way that they speak, their language patterns will tell you quite a lot. So, right, so you've had evidence of something, you've had hearsay, you've had evidence of something, and you still disagree with it. So it's happened to me a number of times with things where the first time it's been a bit of a nudge. The second time it's been, that feels uncomfortable. I don't like that. The third time's like an Exocet missile because you've not listened. So you're put in a place where I feel that you're made to listen. And this is where, when you say to people that, or I do in particular, I'll own this one, where that has not come out of the blue. There must have been warnings at some stage that you've ignored, because think about it with people. Oh, bless them, they've had a rough upbringing. Oh, bless them, Taurus is in Uranus, it's Mercury retrograde. Oh, bless them.
Nobody wants a Taurus in Uranus. I'm sorry.
Being sarcastic there, by the way, shows my ignorance and lack of knowledge, but that's my silly sense of humour. But I use this a lot on stage. And you talk about, the reasons why you should make allowances for poor behaviour, or allowances for people to do these negative things for you. They're all clues. So being a pain avoider, where I don't like the thought of being in emotional pain or difficulty, I am doing my level best at over 50 now to learn the lessons a lot quicker. Because for me, I don't know about you, because I'm not going to say what your age is, but what I've learned is that
You say my age. I'm not afraid of my age. I'm 52.
Well, this is one of this is dodgy grounds. I said to you last time, ladies terrify me. They really do, because I just don't know. So I never want to put my foot in it knowingly. So don't talk about ladies' ages. Anyway, as I got to over 50, my recovery time is a lot longer. So if something sort of knocks me off kilter, I tend to find myself, it's taking myself longer to pick up, because I will do that bit where I'm lost in thought or something like that. And you get stubborn and set in your ways sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's that, right, where am I going to get my rejuvenation from? Where am I going to get my resurrection from? And sometimes it's just a case of, right, balls to the wall while I get this sorted, and make an action plan and then stick with it. Tin helmet time, as I like to know it as.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I always remind people, and I do a little bit of an experiment with them, I says, think about whatever your problems are by all means. But I want you to just think for a moment, what has been your worst ever day? Right. And every single time I've said this over the last it's been nearly 7 years now since I started working on the spiritual circuit. And every time I've asked this question, there is nobody has ever said yet that their worst ever day is their current set of circumstances. They always go backwards. I don't ask them to actually relive the trauma or anything like that. But I said, what is the common occurrence with any trauma that you've been through in life? You come through the other side.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here to have this conversation with me. So the commonality of that statement is that whatever you're going through, that you are going to come through the other side. Right. Reality says that we might be a bit more bumped and battered, and we might be upset and angry and traumatized. But the key is that we came through it. So that shows our strength and resilience. It will also give you lessons of what you don't want to experience in the future, as long as you heed the warning. So then we can really put that attention to something and give it growth. You wouldn't put a plant in the dark and not give it any water and any nourishment and expect it to grow. So it's one of those situations that I feel it is painful, and that is in reality. Take as long as you need to, but don't get stuck in procrastination. Make those changes and check in with yourself, because we spoke about rest, didn't we, briefly over there before we came on camera. Sometimes it's great to just do nothing. Right? Don't plan, don't consider, don't think. Sit in your own. I'm going to be careful how I word this, because I don't want to put an image in people's mind. But sit in your own muck. Sit in your, in your dressing gown all day. Eat chocolates. Do whatever it is that you need to do. But give yourself a bit of discipline and say, right, okay, I'm having that day of rest. I'm having that day of contemplation, meditation. But tomorrow, the real work gets done. Hold yourself to account, because at the end of the day, there's only you can make a difference in your life when it comes down to it. Just a few thoughts as usual with me.
I'm just putting our call to action in here so people can see it in writing if they are visual learners here. Just trying to help everybody out. I wrote, oh, good. I spelled specific right. I thought I wrote specific. So, so one of the things that I found very curious in The Secret and in some of my other manifestation books and items that I was looking through. You guys know, my followers know I love Louise Hay. We did lose her just a few years ago. She passed away, but her legacy lives on with Hay House. And you can still, of course, get her books and see her lectures and whatnot. But she would always, she's like the queen of affirmations. She really stressed the mind and spirit over body, that we can conquer different ailments and different things. And those can be physical ailments, or those can be spiritual or psychological ailments. We can really work to manifest those. So we do need to manage our thoughts. That's a daily process. So, if you look in the mirror and you go, oh, God, I'm so fat. I'm so fat is a manifestation. That's a spell. You created a spell. You are telling yourself that you are so fat. and your body is now registering that and going to live that reality. So if we look at things from, what one of my friends had a father who was a cross-country truck driver, and he's told me that his father told him, here in the US, we've got, those flyover states everybody talks about. It's just distance. Like, you could just see for miles and miles to the horizon. And what his father told him when he learned how to drive, he said, focus on the horizon. Don't look right in front of you. You're going to get tired. You're going to see the same thing. You're going to miss the bigger picture. You're going to miss the goal. And that's what you want to look at. So when we are managing our thoughts and we are trying to manifest a different future that's going to work for us, and we want to program our body a la Dr. Joe Dispenza, we want to do that manifestation and program our cells, our DNA, everything to live that amazing future. We want to use good wording, use good manifestations. We do want to connect with spirit, of course, when we're doing this. But the affirmations that we should be using shouldn't be, oh, I really want to be thin again. It should be, I am thin. I am fit. I am whole. I am complete. I am worthy of a relationship that nourishes me and comforts me. I am ready for a partner that is going to be the yin to my yang. All of those things, we really should, manage that wording. And the warning for me is more often than not listening to that negative voice in my head. Those are the warnings that I need to listen to. So if I wake up in the morning and go, oh, I don't fit in my pants, I'm not going to fit in my pants for the rest of the week. But if I say, oh, I am almost fitting in my pants, maybe I'm setting that pace for the end of the week, to be able to get in those pants, and I have a bunch of those upstairs. So, but changing your expectation, I think, is really vital. So, and being specific about that is super important, because spirit hears us, the universe hears us. It's like the genie with the lamp. You rub the lamp and you go, well, actually, I'm going to change that. It's the story of the monkey's paw. Do you know the story of the monkey's paw, Rick?
Sorry, just glitched then. The monkey's what? Sorry.
The monkey's paw.
No.
So it I believe was a short story, and then they turned it into a short film. So it's a couple, and they have an adult son, or an older son, and their friend comes from India. He's traveled abroad, and he has a monkey's paw talisman. It's gross, severed monkey's paw. So the gentleman tells this married couple and their son, yeah, this is really cool. You can get wishes with this. And so he said, I'm going to gift it to you. And the father takes it and he says, I wish I had 300 pounds. And I believe it's a British story. Says, I wish I had 300 pounds. And the monkey's paw twists in his hand. He gets freaked out and he sticks it on the mantelpiece. And the next day, the son works in a factory and he fell into the machinery and got all chopped up. And the owners of the factory come over and hand the father 300 pounds, because that was the insurance they had for their workers. Son gets buried. Parents are obviously distraught. One night, the mother says, I need my son back. And she takes the monkey's paw and wishes for him to come back. And it's a stormy night in the movie. And all of a sudden there's pounding on the door that sounds like zombie droning pounding. And the father knows that the son has resurrected and he's all chopped up and disgusting. And it's not the son that they lost. So he grabs the monkey's paw and it spins in his hand and the knocking stops. So it's a moral lesson to be careful what you wish for. So in this manifestation, when we're in the gap of this live grieving, what we should do is we should ask for specifics. So say a relationship breaks up. It just doesn't work, that our goals are not aligned. And one changes their expectation, says, I want to be in a good relationship. Okay, there's a lot of wiggle room on that one. There's, who's the relationship good for? Is it good for the other person? Is it good for you? There's just a lot of wiggle room on that. So being specific in our manifestations is really key. So I want to be in, or I am ready for a relationship with a person who is going to play pickleball with me, who enjoys backgammon, who wants to have 5 children, who is ready to be in a partnership. Being super, super specific about that. BC, I may be wrong. It may not be a UK story. I'll look it up and put it in my community page. But being specific about what you want. And then here's the magic part of it. Expecting that person to roll into your life. Now, I had split up with my kid's dad, and I was barely working. I had like a silly part-time job. My kids were little. I had 0 savings. I left with $50 to my name. I was very fortunate that my father was like, I will set you up, just get back to work and do what you have to do. When I had gotten established, I had 2 friends, and they're both both of them. One was active law enforcement and one was former law enforcement. 2 guy friends of mine, and we're sitting on my little deck at my condo, drinking wine, watching the tourists go home. And I was like, I'm ready to date. I want to date somebody. I'm like, I want you guys to set me up with somebody. Like, I really want personal references. And so they said, well, let's make a list. So I made this list of attributes that a given spouse would, or person to date, someone to be involved with would have. And I handed them my list. We're doing it while we're sitting there. And both of them cracked up and they go, oh, you're never dating ever again. I was like, wait, what? Why? And they were like, this list is impossible. Writing that list down, Greg hit every item. And this was a sizable list because I never do anything small. Greg hit everything except for 2 points. And the one was, I wanted somebody to have more hours of tattooing on me. And I can't remember what the other one was, but obviously it was negotiable because it wasn't a big deal. But he hit every single thing. And Greg and I, we've known each other our whole lives. Our moms were best friends. We were hanging out at the time. People crack up and, hi, Foxy. They say, Greg and I were dating for 2 years secretly. And no, we were the only ones that didn't know it. But you never know what you're manifesting unless you're really specific. I was really specific and I got Greg. Go figure. So I being specific, changing that expectation and expecting the result. Like I don't want to wish to win. To this day, I'm saying it, I'm going to be the psychic that gets the headline, psychic wins lottery. I'm going to be that psychic. That's going to be me. So one day you guys will see that. I don't care if it's $10. No, it'll be more than that. It'll be more than that because I have won $10. But, being specific about what we want in the future is really key. And this is a way to get out of that pothole. Setting that expectation, being ready for something and announcing it to infinity that I'm ready for this reality. I'm drawing this reality to me. It's going to magnetize it to you. So Rick, your thoughts on that? I kind of went off for a little bit. Sorry.
No, I'm fascinated sat there listening. I think just adding to it that actually knowing that you're worth it. I tell because I'm a storyteller. I love telling little stories. I'll keep this one brief because I know that we're coming to the end of our time today with your hard stop. But I tell a similar sort of story to you there, but I talk about Amazon.spirit. So me personally, I am, I'm going to say tight with money. Let me put it that way. I don't like spending money because money with me, I've never really had any in my life. So I'm very careful. The only thing that I will spend money on is trainers because I have a particular issue with my feet, and I've tried buying cheap stuff and it just doesn't work for me. So I always buy the most expensive pair of trainers that I can afford, because I know that it's worth the investment. So say to Amazon.spirit, who I hugely believe in. There are other companies in spirit that are available. It was just for an example.
Wish dot spirit. I don't know what you get from them.
So Amazon.spirit, let's just use them as an example. That I say to Spirit, my poor old feet now are suffering a little bit. I need a pair of trainers. So the next day there's a knock on the door, and then surely there's Amazon.spirit's best courier, and he hands me a box, and I open the box, and inside the box is a pair of trainers, size 11, white Adidas. Now, there's a bit of a problem there for me, because I'm a size 8 and I buy black Nike. Right? Always stick with the same trainers. The color may vary, but I always buy the same make. So now I'm faced with a dilemma. Do I take the trainers in out of embarrassment and go and put them in the back of the wardrobe and leave them there because I'm embarrassed about the fact that I've ordered something, paid money for it, but I can't face actually sorting it out, and then order a new pair? So I've still got a pair of new trainers, but I'm now 2 lots out of pocket. So say I paid £60 for my pair of trainers, I'm now £120 in the hole. Or do I send them back and ask for a specific pair of size 8 black Nikes? The thing is, with the people that can't face up to the fact that they need a restructure, is what tends to happen is they will keep those trainers in the background. They will order the new ones, and they will be £120 out of pocket. But here's the added bonus: what a lot of people that tend to do with this story is they will also go back to that wardrobe and look at the pair of size 11s that they've bought, and then beat themselves up because they haven't got the wherewithal to turn around and just go, no, that's not acceptable. So once you're specific, you don't waste any energy on stuff that you've done. You know, your expectations are set at this level, and don't settle for anything less. Be open to change and compromise. That we will all make mistakes because we're human beings and we're always learning and evolving. So for me, it's all about how hard you treat yourself. You know, how much do you let that inner narrator get hold of you? How much are you influenced by some of the negative? I call it monkey chatter. How much are you influenced by the negative monkey chatter? This is where I feel that the managing director who's upstairs in your mind needs to step in and right, okay, so we've got a realistic agenda here, that there is a problem, that I've wasted £60, but there is an alternative. I can send that back and get my money back. So no harm, no foul. Or I can choose to focus on the fact of the mistakes that I made leading up to this revelation. So when you order from Amazon.spirit or wherever you order your life there, whatever you're manifesting, be very specific. Don't compromise. You know, it's nice for you that you got all but 2. I just saw my life when I've had relationships in the past as the fixer. So once I'd done my job, I became surplus to requirements. It was a very strange process for me personally when I met somebody who helped fix me without any expectations, and all of that needs adjusting to. So when it comes to what you're ordering, there might well be like little corners that need rubbing off, because you've got as close as you can. Is that good enough for you? In my case, it was more than what I expected. In your case, I don't know, but
it's definitely more than what I expected. It's pretty wild.
But you set that list out. Now, whether it was physically or in your mind, there's loads out there for us on the shopping list. The only thing that I advise people is be careful of your wording, because you put things out and spirit are always listening. The universe is always ready to reflect back at you what you ask of it. But if there's somebody up there in Amazon.spirit looking at the shelves and you sent an order out and then you cancelled it before it's got there, there's somebody up there going, What do they? So they go along the bottom shelf and scoop it all into a carrier bag and send you all of that, and you open it up and you go, "That's not what I ordered." Well, it is.
Yeah.
So
The
when you take
fulfillment
out the
team
bits
gets
that you want,
confused.
yeah. So the universe relies on specific instruction, and this
And
is where the vibration matches with the expectation. So just be careful what you order.
I think people get hung up with manifestation and asking of spirit, of the universe, of God, because it's magical. So they're like, well, let's see what comes through. Ask specifically. You know, people have been doing this in temple, in church, in mosques forever. They, you know, sit and they pray and they ask God for things or their particular God. You know, don't be afraid to ask our guides to help us. Don't be afraid of that. So I'm going to jump, but and I'm sorry that you know I really wanted to keep this time free, but I made this appointment a few weeks ago. Rick, I am going to do a live tomorrow. I was planning on scheduling a live, and there was Anne in the comments asked if we would be doing the live together. Would you like to do a live reading for people tomorrow? I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know what your schedule is like.
What is it tomorrow? Tuesday. I should be okay. Shall I bring my tarot cards myself as well
That's what I'm thinking.
and do a bit of general work like I do? We don't work in the same manner, but I'm sure we can come up with, you know, something.
It's absolutely a complementary manner that we both work in. What we'll talk offline and schedule for something tomorrow, because I was planning on doing live readings tomorrow anyway. So we'll coordinate on Facebook Messenger and we'll put something together for tomorrow. Your time schedule a little bit earlier in the day for me. So we'll have some fun with that.
No problem at all.
All right. So everybody that's here, same time next Monday, we're going to keep doing this because it's fun and it's good for our heads and it's good for us. If you haven't subscribed to Rick, please go over there. I did put his information in the description of this video and also in the comments. Wifey Dueling Tarot, Alicia's still, you know, coping with her the medical needs for her mom. So that is indefinitely on hiatus, but we will bring it back eventually. I'm not pushing that, you know, because Alicia will not be coming back until the fullness of time, as in the words of the late Queen Elizabeth. So I'm not pushing her to come back anytime soon. So Rick and I will be doing this in the mornings, which is a little bit different from Dueling Tarot. And we're going to uplift everybody and get everybody into good spiritual shape. So very cool stuff. So, all right, I am going to jump right off, Rick. So I'm going to end the stream and then jump out of the studio. Everybody, thanks for being here again. Please, if you would like to get readings with Rick and I, again, in the description, you will see that there are links to contact Rick. There's his email, there's his YouTube channel. Just go on over there. My scheduling link is in there as well. And we'll see all of you tomorrow and then next week and next Monday. All right. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.